Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Merlin Talk. It's the third in the series of talks by Merlin sailors and other officials, providing an insight into improving your performance and enjoyment. Tonight, we're lucky enough to have Merlin legend, Alex Warren, of Warren Therapy and Fitness. Most of us know Alex, of course, from the fleet, but those of you who might not know Alex, he's a superstar crew and helm of owner of Tiger, chief of the crew's union, which many of you will know, and the youngest member of the Warren Merlin Rocket dynasty. More importantly, he's a personal fitness coach, soft tissue therapist, with a special focus on sailing fitness and performance. So it's particularly useful for what we're looking for tonight before the season starts. But before Alex's presentation, a few quick notices. And firstly, the Nationals. Nationals are on East Lothian from the 15th to the 19th of August. If you haven't entered already and intending to go, please enter. It allows everyone to prepare and plan for the right numbers. So if you haven't already entered, please enter. And secondly, Merlin Rocket Owners Association membership, which has many advantages, not least you get a fantastic magazine, probably the best in the industry. You also get excellent coaching, and I'm memorizing this because it can't see Alex's thing particularly well, but and several other benefits like their owners entry into the website forum there, so that's particularly useful. So membership can be for as little as £15 as an associate member. So if you're not already a member, please ask someone or go to the website and you'll see how to join. All right. Finally, can you everybody turn off the cameras and go to mute? We will be recording this for future presentations. So for GDPR requirements, please turn off your cameras. There will be questions at the end. Please use the chat function in the Zoom if you have any questions, and we'll endeavour to put them to Alex at the end. So thank you very much, and over to you, Alex.
Oh, thank you, Ben. Can you see my screen, just out of interest? You can see it, can you?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect, thanks. So thank you for joining me tonight with my little chat about fitness in sailing. We'll sort of go over a number of things to do with fitness and just sort of give you a few tips on how to improve your sailing. So a little bit about myself just to begin with. So Ben did a little intro. So I'm part of Shoreham Sailing Club on the south coast in Sussex. I helm a boat called Tiger with a guy called John T just down at the club. I currently crew for Ian Sharps in Okie Dokie, and we are entered into the champs this year, which I am really looking forward to. I've never actually been to Scotland before, believe it or not, so I'm quite excited just to go up there, which will be good. With like my sailing history, I've managed to win Salcombe Week and a couple of silver tillers and the inlands with Taxi or Andy Davis. So that was pretty good. And not forgetting Fran Gifford, 3 times River Thames circuit winning crew. That is an absolute honour to hold onto, actually, and I love that. That's really good. So a bit about me in sailing, and then just with my sort of like industry, I'm a personal trainer, sports coach, and soft tissue therapist. So I work at a couple of clinics in London, osteopath clinics. So I work at Back to Back and Nova Osteo, doing the soft tissue side of things. And then with Warren Therapy and Fitness, that is something I have set up. So I work very closely with sailors and people in other sports, so like skiing, bouldering, football, sort of any sort of sports. And I don't just do sort of fitness stuff. I provide sort of coaching tips as well, just to like help people improve in their sports. And I think that because of my industry and because of what I do, I think it sort of gives me a really big understanding of sort of sailing and how to sort of improve the body in sailing. So yeah, so hopefully I can give you a few little tips tonight. So kicking it off, so it's been a bit of a strange year. We've been thrown into a lockdown for just over a year now, I think it is. And because of that, there's been no sailing. All the gyms have been shut. It's been pretty terrible, and it sort of affected a lot of people's mental and physical health as well. So especially with the physical side of things, like we've been very static. We haven't really been moving about much at all. And especially when it comes to sort of like weight training and things like that, like we haven't been able to do much strength work, which I believe is really important, especially in sailing. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a story about easing out of lockdown and about treating your body nicely and not sort of running before you can walk, really. So my grandfather, Alan Warren, he during lockdown, he was told by a few members of the family that he was maybe getting a little bit chubby, a little bit unfit. So he decided to take action, and being the Olympic sailor that he was, he decided at the ripe old age of 85 to bring out his old Olympic training program. So that included sort of burpees, squats, sit-ups, things like that. And having done no warm-up at all, he just went straight into it. And lo and behold, he managed to injure himself while feeding the cat later on that evening. So it's really important, and I can't stress this enough, that if you have been someone throughout lockdown who has been sort of like quite inactive, hasn't been doing as much exercise as they normally do, when we go back into sailing, just make sure you're preparing your body a little bit, and you just sort of maybe waking your body and your muscles up a little bit more before you get into it. So you can head over to my website afterwards, and there's a little blog post about coming out of lockdown and treating your body nicely. And I think it'll be in the magazine also once I send that to Pat. So I've got a few little tips and tricks. I've got a little video to show you with a few of my sort of like favorite exercises to help get back into sailing. And this will just wake up those muscles and just sort of re-engage your body. So when you go into sailing, hopefully you'll feel a little bit better. So I'll sort of just talk about each exercise as we go through it. So what I'm doing here is a dead bug. These are great because they sort of really activate your core. You can also see when extending your legs, it sort of gets your hip flexors working a little bit. When I'm got my hands like that and I'm pushing against my knees, it really engages the core. So this is a really nice one to sort of start off with and just get your core working a little bit. And then there's a few little variations. So this is a little bit harder if you want to sort of work your core muscles a little bit more. So you can just do a little bit of a full extension with both arms above your head. So that's quite a nice little one. The next one we're going to sort of talk about is called a high hip walkout. So this is a great one to do actually if you're sort of in the dinghy park sort of before you're about to get into the boat and you've got a little bit of space, maybe you're sort of in a queue waiting for people, and it's really good to sort of warm the shoulders up, get the core working a little bit, and just get your whole body working. Make sure when you're sort of like walking on the way back, you're keeping your legs nice and straight, and this will help sort of stretch your hamstrings out a little bit, and just make your legs feel really, really good when you're getting in the boat. You can add a little variation with a bit of a downward dog if you want to sort of improve mobility. So this is a great exercise for doing that. And then in a sec, you'll see me add in a push-up and this is just really good. You can add this in as like a little strength and mobility warm-up, so just gets your upper body sort of training a little bit harder, there we go, and a little bit stronger. So if you're, I was speaking to Chris Kilsby earlier, if you want to add in a few little upper body workout exercises, this would be great for training your upper body. Now, this one is really good for someone who struggles with sort of hip flex pain. I know in sailing, your hip flexors get affected quite a lot by this. So when you're hiking out the boat, obviously it puts a lot of strain and load through your hip flexors. So doing this exercise, you can sort of change the intensity of the band that you work with. And when you're sort of pedaling down, it really gets the bent knee, it really gets that hip flexor working really well. So this is just a really good exercise for hip activation. And then the instep stretch is really good for getting rotation working. It's quite hard to get into this position, so just start sort of kneeling and then put both hands down on the ground, and then it's sort of the same hand as your front leg sort of working upwards. Try and look with your neck as well. So in sailing, we do a lot of turning with our head. So it's really important to get your neck moving during this exercise and during sailing as well. And it's also just really good for your glutes, like really good stretching them out, especially for someone who suffers with tight glutes. I know I do for sure. And then the last one, sorry about the front image. This is not a great image for me, but front image, we're just going to a wall sit with a band frontal raise. So this is really great for that isometric holding. So what I mean by that is isometric work is when you're sort of in a position and you're static, but your muscles are working sort of through that exercise. And the band is used just to sort of add in a bit of lateral shoulder work. So when you're pulling out, obviously your shoulders are working quite hard just to sort of warm up a little bit more. So the science behind the madness of my coaching. So I don't just sort of throw exercises together. I'm currently studying to do a sort of to become a movement specialist. So I look at sort of people's movements in what they do. So for example, in sailors, I'd look at sort of the movements we do in the boat, and then I'd apply that in my training. So I get a lot of people come to me with questions like, I'm not improving in my fitness for sailing, or it could be with any sport really, like running, for example. People are struggling to sort of improve times in running and things like that. And when I sort of break down their training plans and schedules, it's amazing sort of how much I see people's training programs not relate to their sports. So I love this photo by Sophie Mackley because it shows two fantastic sailors, but they're both sort of hiking very differently, and there are reasons for this. So you can see Sam sort of hiking out the boat there. You can see he's a little bit twisted, but you know, he's really sort of hiking out hard, like he's getting his body pretty far out. So in sailing, it's not just a case of training one thing, because we move in all different aspects. We move in all three planes of motion when we're sailing. So for example, we rotate. So even when we're like pulling the spinnaker down, we'd be rotating our trunk as we're pulling that spinnaker down, as well as pulling back with the rope with our arms. So lateral work, so like side to side. A good example of this would be sort of driving over waves. So when you're at a big sea event, so for example, like the Nationals this year, we should get quite a big swell, hopefully. And it's really important to, especially as a crew, I think, to really move your body back and forward to drive over that wave. And then lastly, a sagittal movement is sort of like a forward and back. So for example, in hiking, just getting into the boat, maybe during attack, you sort of like really come forwards and drive forwards with the body to get into the boat. So when you're looking at all these movements in sailing, it's really, really important to try and apply those to your training. So with my clients, I'd give them a lot of different exercises to sort of try and simulate similar sailing movements. And there's some like equipment stuff that's really, really good. So I know that one of my clients, Jeff Kimber, he's actually got a hiking hold machine. So it's literally like a bench, but you can get like a custom made one to fit like a Merlin sort of hull shape. So that's really good. So we sort of involve that along with maybe band work, or get a medicine ball and just get him moving while in a hiking position. And that can be sort of really, really beneficial, which is really good. Also with sort of like training stuff, it's really important, especially in sailing, how up and down the level and intensity it is when sailing. So when you're hiking like a 3-sail reach in crazy windy conditions and it's quite tight, you get to the bottom mark and you're pulling the spinnaker down and you're thinking, blimey, I'm puffing here, and it's pretty hard work. And then you get back onto the beat again and it's sort of like just locked into that position and sailing up the beat. So incorporating that into your training as well. So if you're someone who does a lot of running or biking, things like that, try and add in a bit of interval work just to try and increase that intensity a little bit, sort of mimic that high levels of intensity during sailing. So that's really important. So yeah, so just try and link your training with your sailing, and it should sort of help improve your sailing fitness in that sense. So with that, I've given a few little exercises that I really like, and these will just sort of help improve strength in sailing. So this is a banded row, so it's a relatively easy-ish exercise with this type of band, and you can also do different other row variations with weights and things like that if you want to try and improve strength. So you just increase the load, and then over time you'll increase your strength. So you can vary this one, for example. So I'm obviously leaning back in sort of like a similar hiking position, engaging the core whilst rowing, and that sort of simulates sort of pulling in the sheep, I suppose. And then you've got these rows with heavier weights. And just by increasing the load, you can sort of really work your back muscles quite well here. And in that bent over position, your lower back is really working to sort of keep you from falling over. And yeah, just training nicely there. This one is quite a nice one. So with that sagittal movement I was talking about and hiking out. So if you're someone who does quite a lot of sit-ups every day, and you're thinking, oh, this is quite easy, and then you get out into the boat and you're finding hiking still a bit hard, try and add some load into your sort of eccentric phase. So that's the downward phase of your sit-up. So increasing that load will just sort of train those muscles to resist that sort of level of that load that you're applying to it. So it's really good. So this one is really good. So I had a little question by Liv Bell earlier in the week about forearm strength and sort of trying to improve your strength to like uncleat say the jib or holding the spinnaker for like long periods of time. This is a really good one because keeping your arm at like 90 degrees, you're just sort of really working on your forearm strength and your grip strength. So it's just a really good one for that. And then the last one, we just added in a banded oblique twist. So this just gets the rotational work going. So as you can see, we're sort of working through all planes of motion here. And this really sort of drives your obliques. So when you're trying to, I don't know, look while you're hiking to see where the breeze is up the course, this is a really good one to sort of keep you hiking and keep those abs working quite hard. Moving on swiftly. So a standard sort of training week that I would set my clients. This varies quite a lot depending on when in the year I'd be setting the training programs. So we have like an in and off season. So I'll talk about the off season first. So obviously we've had a very long off season with lockdown and things like that. So it's training has sort of been quite similar for my clients in the last few months. So we've just been working on a lot of strength training. It's been quite intense for my clients. So I've basically just been trying to train them up, just preparing their bodies ready for the season. I think the off season is more important than in season because, you know, I know Sam in his presentation talked a lot about preparing for events and things like that. And it's just the same for your body. If you don't prepare your body for an event, so during winter, if you don't train hard, ready for the season to kick off in spring, then your body's just not going to be ready to deal with it. So during the off season, that's probably the most important time to focus on your training and do all the work. But obviously we're coming into the season now. So what are we going to do now? So in the in season, I will be tailoring the workouts a little bit. Maybe focus on, if you are getting into fitness, maybe just focus on doing 1 or 2 hard training sessions at the beginning of the week. Because obviously you don't want to sort of burn yourself out going into a sailing event or anything like that. So just make sure you're not sort of overloading your body with too many things. I think, especially with this weather now recently, that biking is a really, really good way of just giving your body an active recovery. So sort of towards the mid to end of week, it will be really important to add in maybe a bike ride just to keep the legs ticking over, keep the cardio working. And maybe you can set sort of like a harder cardio session at the beginning of the week if you want to just like boost your cardio a little bit more. And then I'd always add in a couple of mobility sessions. I think mobility is, you know, really, really important. More important, if not more important than strength work, because if you obviously can't move your body, then you won't be able to like do things in the boat that, you know, that you should be able to do. So just making sure your body can move properly without pain, I think is just really good. And then finally, recovery. Always add in a recovery day. I know recently my body's a bit broken today because I know sports has opened up recently and I've just been wanting to do all the sports again. So I've been doing football and climbing and biking and everything. And I've said to myself, right, tomorrow I'm going to have a rest day. And it's just really important to let the body recover and sort of rest and let your muscles rest and build up stronger. So then when you're going into your next session, you're not getting that achy feeling and you're feeling sort of your peak. So the important bits to take from this is make sure at the end of the week you're doing a mobility session or doing something light with your training. So then when you go into your sailing event, you're not feeling like you've been beaten up or anything like that. Okay. Next, we're going to move on to nutrition at events. So I know Sam talked a little bit about nutrition, but I'm just going to dive into it a little bit more. And I'm going to talk about sort of like 6 essential things to bring out with you on the water. And with this list, like you can sort of adjust it slightly, but this is what I stick to when I go sailing. So number 1 and 2 go hand in hand. So isotonic drinks and water, you know, these are great for sort of rehydrating, replacing electrolytes, things like that. I think it's really important, obviously when sailing, that if you are dehydrated and you're sailing along, your body's not going to function properly, and it's not going to work as hard as what you hope it can work at. So one of the best ways of getting as much energy throughout the race is to look at your diet. So planning your diet for big events is really, really important. I think bananas are really important, especially for like reducing cramps. Like they've got a lot of potassium in them, so and they're great for releasing energy, along with sort of energy bars as well. They go hand in hand. So just for that slow release of energy, I'd normally, like if it was like a 2 race day, I'd normally you know, have a banana maybe before race one, and then maybe like a energy bar between the races. You just need to keep your energy levels topped up, so your body can just keep working at its max capacity when you're sailing. Sugar gels are really good for sort of end of a race. I'd always keep an energy gel, not just because I'm diabetic, but because I really want to get that little bit of burst of energy just at the end of the race. You sort of get into especially on like national, like Thursday race day, the Champagne race, when you know you're going up the last beat and you're absolutely knackered because you've been working your butt off, and then you remember you got that sugar gel left in your buoyancy aid, and that will just, honestly, that will make such a difference for your last beat, and it will just give you that little burst of energy just to sort of drive to the line. And you know, I think towards the end of the race, especially on those last beats, you know, you could make several places just by having the energy and the fitness there. So I think that's really, really important. And then finally, a little sandwich or something a bit more substantial. So you can be out on the water for 5-6 hours sometimes, and you know, you could have all the gels and bananas in the world, but it just will not give you enough, you know, energy to keep going. So something a little bit more substantial. I try and sort of leave the sandwich for as long as possible, just because I don't really like sailing with a full stomach. But if you're someone who, you know, gets a bit hungry and sort of doesn't get enough food in your body, then bring a sandwich with you. I think they're really, really good. And then when you're coming off the water, I always have a protein shake. I think they're really, really good, just for sort of like helping repair muscles, and just help your muscles recover for the next day. If you're someone who doesn't get enough protein in their diet, I think protein shakes are really, really good for you. Yeah, they're just great to have, basically. And then especially at the nationals, I think it's really important to try and eat loads of food. So pastas, you know, potato, get your meats in there, vegetables, just eat food, because you're burning so much energy throughout the day. So it's really, really important to just give your body as much fuel as possible to keep going. Cool. I'm just going to talk a little bit. I'm just going to give a few tips and tricks for crews and helms. So tip number one, and it might sort of seem like quite an obvious little tip, but just have the right equipment with you. So I always remember sort of when I started out sailing, and I had quite a lot of hand-me-downs, which obviously I'm very sort of thankful for having hand-me-downs. But if they didn't fit or they didn't keep you warm enough, you're definitely wasting loads of energy just trying to keep warm. And it can really distract you as well from sailing. So just having the right sort of equipment is just really, really good for you. Even like footwear, I think, is really important. If you've got sort of a nice sort of stable footwear, it does just help give a little bit more stability in the boat for you. I sail with these sort of Adidas sports sort of sailing boots, and they're pretty, there's not much structure to them, but I know that they're really sort of strong underfoot, and they're quite light. So I've got really quite strong, stable ankles. So I think they're quite good for that. But if you're someone who suffers a lot with sort of ankle instability, then having sort of maybe a more stable sailing boot could be quite beneficial for you. I'll go down to the bottom left one. So toe strap length. I've seen this a lot in crews and helms. So when you're sailing along and you're in sort of an S shape when you're hiking, you're not getting your body out far enough to get the max weight out the boat, just to help sort of drive the boat down. Also, getting back into the boat, it can be you can sort of waste more energy trying to get back in the boat from that position. It's obviously a longer way distance to sort of travel to get back in the boat. So I think having a very good toe strap length is really important. I change my toe straps actually quite frequently. depending on the event that I'm at. So at Salcombe, I sort of tend to have a slightly tighter toe strap, just because I know we won't be hiking for long periods of time. So you'll be sort of moving in and out the boat quite quickly. And I think having sort of quite a tight toe strap is quite good for reacting a little bit quicker. And then when I'm at a nationals event and you'd be on a beat for like a long period of time, I think it's very important to have as comfortable a toe strap as possible. And this doesn't mean going to that S position. No, it means hiking out the boat, but obviously keeping your toe straps at a really comfy length. I know that Taxi, he keeps his toe straps quite tight, and he almost sits. It's almost like perching on the side, but it's not quite perching, because he sits on the deck and then really leans out with his body. So it puts a lot more pressure onto his abdominals and things like that. But I think it's really important getting the weight out. And yeah, just toe strap length, just really sort of maybe just ask someone just to look at your toe strap length when you're sailing along, just to adjust it, because it does make a huge difference. The next one, ankle strength and stability. So with your ankle stability, so my dad always used to teach me when I started sailing, he always used to be like a cat in the boat. You got to basically be on your toes, be reactive. You shouldn't even hear you moving around the boat, because you're that quick, you're like that light on your feet. And that doesn't come naturally. That comes with sort of good ankle strength and stability. So if you're someone who struggles with this, working a lot with sort of movements on one leg, so sort of standing on one leg, you can do this when you're like brushing your teeth. It's very simple to do. Just standing on one leg and just like reaching in different directions with your other leg while you're standing on that leg, I think is a really good exercise, just to help improve the ankle strength and stability a little bit. Because as we know, when you're sort of moving around the boat and things, it's very uneven, and your ankles connect everything to your body, but it's all like an upward thing with your body, starting from your ankles and your feet. So it's really important to protect those ankles quite a lot. And then finally, I know a lot of people on this chat will be in office jobs, and one of the things I've seen throughout lockdown, and this doesn't apply to sailors, this applies to everybody, is everybody is in sort of a bad desk setup, bad posture and positioning. So it's really important, if you're in an office job, to get up and moving sort of every 30 minutes to an hour. Try not to sort of stay sat down for long periods of time, because then your muscles will just seize up quite a lot, and it'll be quite hard to sort of get them warm and moving again. Secondly, like, make sure your chair is the right height and your eyes are sort of level with your screen. I know it sounds really obvious, but they can affect your posture and your back quite a lot. And if you're sort of like attacking your body in your everyday office job, and then you go from that into like an intense sport like sailing, then obviously it's not going to be good for you. So just make sure, and you can get like, I'm pretty sure you can get like, most companies do, was it like ergonomic? I think ergonomic like desk setups. So now everyone's working from home. Yeah, just get that in your life. Like, it's so good for you. Cool. And I think that's about it. I feel like I've just like waffled on like quite a lot. But if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask me, then yeah, go ahead. I'd be happy to answer any that are coming forward. Thanks for listening.
Great, Alex. Thank you very much. I think that's excellent, and perfect timing as well. Well done. Yeah, we just, I hear you had a couple of questions anyway, but a quick one from me. My post-race exercises is a couple of ice creams courtesy of Creation Covers, and a couple of pints courtesy of Lyme Regis Club. Do you do anything there? I noticed you have your protein shake, but do you do any specific exercises?
Yeah. So I am a bit of a sucker for going into the bar quite quickly after sailing, but I definitely find time to stretch afterwards, even if it's sort of like 5 or 10 minutes. And when you're stretching it, I think it's really good to sort of focus on your hip area quite a lot, because your hips take a bit of a battering when you're sailing. So I could do a few little videos, I think, just to help with sort of stretching exercises afterwards. But you've got your sort of standard ones like your pigeon stretch. You've got your hamstring stretch, so sort of like sitting on the floor, one leg in front of you, stretching forwards. Working on the hip flexors, so I like to go onto one knee and then just pushing the hips forward. It will just sort of open your hip flexors up a little bit. But it's quite hard to sort of explain on this. But I'll do a couple of, I'll probably do a video soon to do some good stretches after sailing. So I think that's really, really important. I think almost warming up is more important sometimes, but yeah, definitely stretching afterwards. Get a few of those in. You'll be feeling grand tomorrow. So
Super.
yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Got another one. We've got one from Michelle Evans on Instagram. Any good cable exercises you recommend?
Yeah, so
Could you explain what a cable exercise is?
a cable exercise. So I'm guessing that's on a cable machine. So it's a machine that has a lot of pulleys to it, and you can do a lot of pulling exercises. So if I go back to the video, actually, so in this, can you see the screen still? Yeah. So in this sort of anything rowing is really, really good on a cable machine. And when I talked about sort of loading up the muscles with weights just to improve strength and things like that, I think cables are really, really good for this sort of action. So anything pulling is really good. And then on the last exercise, I did those banded oblique twists. So I think they're really good as well. And you can apply those to a cable machine too. So yeah, they're really good also.
Very good. Another one from Sam Rodwell. How would you advise to calculate your ideal toe strap length?
Oh,
that's a tricky one, isn't it? Because
that's a tricky one, because everybody's different and everybody has a different style of how they race and what's comfortable for them. So one thing I would definitely say is, if you find yourself S-bending, like what I said earlier, sort of your bum is very, very low, like almost touching the water, then almost definitely your toe straps are too long. And then secondly, the opposite side of things, if you're sort of struggling to get your bum over the side and out, and that could sort of like really put strain onto your abdominals and upper part of your body, probably your toe straps are too tight. So you want to sort of like get in that mid range. But the best thing to do would be just ask someone who knows. So just sort of sail along, and it doesn't take very long to sort of get a good idea of what a good toe strap length is. And you should be comfortable as well. Like if you're getting any pain anywhere, like obviously it's painful to hike sometimes, like it's hard work, but you know what is hard work pain rather than pain. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So yeah,
very good. Yeah, and there's always plenty of people to talk to if you're in Dinghy Park, which is
definitely.
great.
And even on the water as well, like I know sometimes we have loads of time like between races and things. So if you're sailing along and you see me or someone else in the fleet, then definitely like just go up to them on the race course, like between races or before race, and just be like, can you look at me just sailing along and just tell me what you think of my toe strap length? Am I hiking out properly? And I can definitely sort of give a few tips and pointers then. And that's the easiest way to do it, really. But yeah, just make sure you're not S-bending too much or in pain. I think that's the main thing. So
okay. Next one, I got a postcard here from a Chris in Dorking. He said, what do you think is the best cardio exercise for sailors? I assume
cardio exercise. I think getting on the bike is good, but I don't think getting on the bike and just doing a distance at a steady pace is necessarily the best thing for sailing. I think get on the bike, do little things like I like to set challenges for my clients. So if they're going for like, I don't know, a 50k ride or something like that, I'd be like, right, on every hill, I want you out the saddle and just really working the legs quite hard. Or I want you to, every 10k, I want you to do a 1k sprint or something like that, just to try and vary the training enough so so your body can like learn to adjust. Because I really like the saying of keep your body on its toes. So what I mean by that is bodies get very comfortable with what they're doing. So if you're going along really comfortable in life, and then someone, I don't know, throws in something into the spanner. I'm really explaining this badly, but say how do I explain it? So say your body is going really comfortably through life, and then all of a sudden it's given a sudden change, and your body's not going to react to that very well. But if you can train your body to react to sort of like sudden changes or things like that, then your body will cope with it better. So that works with sailing also. So if you've got like, I don't know, we go out sailing and it's a moderate 2 to 3, force 2 to 3, and your body's quite comfortable sailing along, and then it picks up to like a force 4 to 5, and you're like really working hard. Your body needs to be prepared in those conditions so it can cope with them. So with your training, try and just adapt it and vary your training up accordingly. So yeah, just try and link your training and your sailing really like that. I hope that makes sense. I'm really bad at like waffling sometimes.
No, that's very good. Very good. Thank you.
Cool.
Just final one from Peter. Hi, Alex. The exercise band you are using, is that the standard physio red strength one?
Yeah, so you can get different. Obviously, you can get different strengths. I think red is quite light, and I use the red one most like all the time. Really, I think it's really good. But even like on like Amazon, things like that, you can get different strengths of bands. I think you don't need very strong. Sort of like the red one and the black one is normally like the strength up is probably the best ones for you. If you go any more than that, you'll be looking at bands that are used for like assisted pull-ups and things like that. So not if you want to get into your pull-ups, which is a very good exercise for training for sailing especially, but if you want to get into pull-ups, then yeah, assisted bands for that could be quite good. But yeah, just the red standard ones are great. I think they're only like £5 on Amazon or something. Yeah,
and a lot of this you don't need any real kit, do you? All these exercises can be done anywhere at any time.
Yeah, so I especially during lockdown, I tried to like keep my exercises quite minimal with the equipment. So all you need is definitely like a few kettlebells. I think they're the best sort of bits of equipment. A few little kettlebells, bands, a mat, and that's really all you need. And you can do so much with those little things. And then obviously when gyms open, things like that, then we can sort of work on maybe building up the strength a little bit more with heavier weights and things like that. So yeah, you can do a lot with just minimal stuff really. It's quite good.
Just a final one then from John Tailby. Do you adjust your toe strap length during the races, either due to different hiking positions on different points of sail or to shift the load?
Not really. I think I definitely before the race starts, I'd probably maybe adjust it fractionally. But if you're obviously sailing in the same boat that you usually sail in, then normally I just keep it quite standard. But I definitely know at Salcombe with the changes of conditions and things like that, I'd be maybe adjusting a little bit more frequently. But at nationals with like a steady wind, once you're set, you want to sort of leave it there and just concentrate on the rest of the race, I think. So yeah, that's more important.
Just how much water or drinks do you get through on the water on a normal sort of championship day?
Oh, it's tricky. If you're pretty full on and you sort of don't have time, it is quite hard to get liquid on. But I would always have a bottle of isotonic drink and a bottle of water for you, and then your helm would have one and the other as well. you know, some of the worst things you could do is run out of liquid and you still got like a race to go. And, you know, if you're gasping for a drink, you know, it's just going to really affect your racing quite a lot, more than you think, actually. And I think Richard Whitworth, I always remember sailing with Richard Whitworth, and he was always like, if you're dehydrated, it reduces your brain capacity by like 20% or something. And don't quote me on that, because I don't know if that's true, but I've sort of listened to that because he's a very clever man. So yeah, so I think it's really important to take as much, like a lot of liquid. I know Sam and Christian take like big bottles with them, I think. Yeah, they take a lot. So yeah, it's important to get that liquid on board for sure.
I've seen several people with 2 large bottles each.
Yeah, especially if you're hungover as well. That can help.
Don't know what you're talking about.
No.
Great. I think that's the end of the questions, Alex. Thank you very much for that. I think everyone will find that very useful and very accessible, as they say, sort of exercises we can all do. So
yeah,
that's great. And I guess we could always come and ask you if we have any questions. And your website is definitely worth looking at for anyone who hasn't seen it. And I think you've got it on the screen there, somewhere at the bottom, Alex.
Yeah, so yeah, I've got a little contact form on the website, so if you ever want to ask me any questions about anything sailing related or anything else, just let me know and I'll try and help as best I can, really. So yeah,
you've just bear with me a second, Alex.
No worries.
That's cool. No, that's cool. That's really good. Well, thank you very much, Alex. That's brilliant. It's a great benefit to have you in the fleet, and you're always very easy to find.
Yeah. I've always been mincing about somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. Excellent. Well, thank you again, and everybody, you've still got a couple of days to get your exercises in before we're sailing. So good luck to you all, and have a great weekend and a great first weekend of sailing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Ben.
Bye.